Okay, iPhone 13 is here and let's talk about it. First of all, iPhone 13, 13 mini, Pro and Pro Max pretty much have the same design. I'm gonna look at my notes. I took notes, but I didn't have time to memorize them, so I'll be looking at them and telling you at the same time. The design more or less looks the same, but I think on the 13 mini and 13 Pro, the buttons, the physical buttons, seems a little lower compared to 12 mini and 12 Pro. When it comes to Max, I think the buttons are at the same place. Maybe this is gonna make reaching at the buttons easier, or maybe it was due to something else because they designed the entire interior. The TrueDepth camera system at the front is 20% smaller, which means we're gonna have a smaller notch, and I cannot wait to see how much more information they're gonna fit on top there. The phones are thicker and they are heavier. They are 0.25 millimeters thicker compared to the previous generation. iPhone 13 mini is 6 grams heavier. iPhone 13 is 10 grams heavier. iPhone 13 Pro is 15 grams heavier. And iPhone 13 Pro Max is 12 grams heavier than the previous generation. I also think on the Pro series, the camera bump is a little bigger, but we will see that once we get the phone in our hands. When it comes to iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max, now the screen supports 120 Hz refresh rate. This is a variable refresh rate, which means it can slow down the refresh rate or bump it up. It's the LTPO. Apple has a patent for this. So that's gonna be a lot of fun to see, and it's gonna be great to see if the animations and everything can catch up with 120 frames per second. I'm pretty sure that's gonna be the case. iPhone 13 has a 15 Bionic chip in it. It has 6-core CPU, 2 performance, 4 efficiency cores. And on the regular series, 13 and mini, it has 4-core GPU. But with Pro and Pro Max, it has 5-core GPU, and they all 4 of them have 16-core neural engine. The screens are brighter. Mini and 13 are now 800 nits instead of 625 when you're doing regular stuff. And when it comes to HDR, the peak brightness is same 1200 nits, which basically means they turn the brightness up a little bit. And the same thing goes for Pro and Max. Now it's 1000 nits on the regular use and 1200 nits on HDR. This was 800 to 1200. And if you've seen my review videos, yeah, these screens are pretty bright and they're just, what a coincidence. The only question is, are the screens gonna dim? Are they gonna last longer compared to the previous generation? What's gonna happen when the phone heats up? Now, the cameras, the regular series 13 and 13 mini have 2 cameras on them, ultra wide and wide. Ultra wide angle has a new sensor, but the 13 millimeter, the aperture and the focal length are the same as the previous generation iPhones. And when it comes to wide angle, I think they put the wide angle camera we had on 12 Pro Max, because now it has 1.7 micrometer pixel size, and it has sensor shift stabilization. That's why the cameras are diagonal now, so they can fit that there. This compared to 13 Pro is not that much of a camera improvement, because on 13 Pro, now the ultra wide angle lens has f1.8 aperture, and it is not a fixed focus ultra wide angle camera, which allows you to shoot macro photos, and I cannot wait to see them. I'm pretty sure they're gonna be really good. And when it comes to wide angle lens, we have the 26 millimeter camera with f1.5 aperture. This I cannot wait to see. And the pixel size is 1.9 macrometer. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm very excited about this. But the telelens has 77 millimeter focal length. iPhone Pro Max had 65. iPhone Pro had 52 millimeter focal length before. So this is going to be a much more zoomed lens. It's gonna be great for portrait photography. It's gonna be great for a lot of stuff. If you like that compression, this tail lens is going to be great. And it has f2.8 aperture. Now, one really interesting thing is we now have the cinematic mode on these iPhone 13s. And this is going to be probably better with the Pro line, because I think they may use LiDAR sensor for their advantage, because what this does is it can shoot 1080p 30 frames per second video with the depth information. And using the other camera at the same time, it can understand when someone is coming into the frame. I probably use the ultra wide angle lens and knows when someone is coming into the frame and switch the focus to that. You can also tap to focus to someone, and you can tap or lock to focus to someone. All this is going to be really good. There's already an app called Focus that you can download and look. I'm really curious to see what lenses it lets us use, and if we can use other frame rates. Is this going to be locked to 30 frames per second, or if we can use other frame rates? We're gonna see when it comes out. Another fantastic feature that is coming to the Pro series is the ProRes video recording is coming to these iPhones up to 4K 30 frames per second. But if you get 128 gigabyte version of any Pro series cameras, it only supports up to 1080p 30 frames per second, according to their websites. And if you don't know what ProRes is basically uncompressed video, and it is very easy to edit that kind of a video. You can apply a lot of correction to it, and I cannot wait to see it. It's going to take a lot of space on your device, of course, which means this device is capable of recording at that speed. Yeah, this is very exciting. ProRes is a fantastic feature. I cannot wait to test it out. It's gonna be coming later. It's not gonna be on our devices yet. It's gonna arrive later. Also, 13 and 13 mini now supports HDR up to 60 frames per second. This used to be up to 30 frames per second in front and back cameras, which is great news. So if you're gonna go for 13 or 13 mini, you're gonna have the extended range and all the advantages of HDR in higher frame rates as well. Also, night mode time-lapse is coming to 13 and 13 mini, which we didn't have that previously. We now have HDR4, which is supposedly better than HDR3, which gives you better dynamic range when you're taking photos. And they showed an example. I really like that example, how blue the sky looks, how the faces of the people are nicely exposed. But there's this one part behind them where it kind of looked overexposed. So since I don't know what the situation was when the photo was taken, but that kind of stood out for me. But I'm gonna conduct my own tests when these products are in my hand. Ultra wide angle has a new sensor on 13 and 13 mini, and we're gonna see about that as well. Another great news is the battery life. Now iPhone 13 mini supports 17-hour video playback from 15-hour, and they say 1.5 hour. At the end of the day, you're gonna have 1.5 hour more battery life with iPhone 13 mini, which kind of solves all the problems, because I use the mini and it always has 10, 14, 7% battery at the end of the day if I'm not really pushing it with taking photos or editing videos on it. But this is really exciting. This is gonna make this phone much more fun. And on the iPhone 13, it says 19-hour battery life video playback compared to 17. These are all great, but when we switch to Pro series, it says 13 Pro video playback 22 hours compared to 17, and 13 Pro Max 28 hours, which is crazy. The pre-ordering is gonna start on September 17th, and the products are gonna be available on September 24th. All of them are coming out at the same time. And now let's look at the prices. When it comes to mini, Now the mini starts from 128 gigabyte and the price starts from 699. So you're basically getting a faster iPhone 12 mini, 13 mini with faster processor, double the capacity, brighter screen, and better cameras for the same price. But with mini and 13, there's this thing, if you buy it unlocked, it is $30 more expensive. This was like that with 12 and 12 mini as well. It's still going on. When it comes to Pro and Pro Max, compared to last year's models, the prices are the same. But the 1 terabyte version, iPhone 13 Pro, is $1,499. iPhone 13 Pro Max is $1,599. But what I'm curious about with iPhone 13 is, of course, if we can switch between lenses while we're recording 60 frames per second video, or the screen dimming, as I mentioned before, or Face ID accuracy, and I want to know how much I can push the ProRes RAW. So when it comes to iPhone 12 mini is the best iPhone all around. Overall, iPhone 12 mini is the best iPhone. But I think with iPhone 13, considering everything, I really don't want to switch to a bigger phone, but I think that's going to be the case. I think that's going to be how it is. I think iPhone 13 Pro is going to be the device. What did you think about the keynote? What did you think about the new iPhones? Is there anything that stood out for you? Or do you think it's just iPhone 12s? It shouldn't be called iPhone 13. I want to know what you think. Let me know in the comment section below, and I'm sure I'll be down there replying so we can talk about this before the phones come out, so we know what to look for. But I liked it. I think it's good. I'm excited about these phones. The colors of the phones are, I like the blue, but I saw a couple of people really not liking the blue, but I really like the blue in Pro Series. Alright, let me know. Subs if you loved it, dubs if you bumped it. I cannot learn what Dave is saying over there. And until I see you the next time, take really good care of yourselves. And hoşça kalın. This video is in 8K.